We are visiting one of the most Lithuanian towns in America. This is Beverly Shores, Indiana, and officially some 12% of all the inhabitants here are of Lithuanian ancestry. So how comes this is so?
Well, Beverly Shores became very popular amongst the Lithuanians back in the early 1950s. People that came in from Lithuania found the nature was so appealing with the lake, the beaches, the pine trees, and just the geography. And they started gravitating towards this town. So much so that so many started living here that in 1955, the American-Lithuanian Club of Beverly Shores was officially incorporated. And since that time till now, the club has been active and never missed a year of activity. Currently, we have a year full of activity where we celebrate the Lithuanian Independence Day, February 16th and March 11th. We had a St. John's festival picnic here. We're going to have a banquet this coming September. It's just a social organization to group Lithuanians together.
Indeed, it is a very cozy town. It's, half town, half forest. It can be said, like every house is basically surrounded by lots of trees here. And there are lots of Lithuanian heritage sites. There's Lituanica Park here, built by Lithuanians. There are Lithuanian details in the local church. And there is commemorative plaque that we have seen today that lists many of the guest houses that used to exist in this town. And most of these guest houses seem to have had Lithuanian names. So what was the story behind that? Was it like a resort here where Lithuanian families from Chicago would move in summers or in weekends? How did it go?
Yes, there were many resorts, as you saw on that list. Individuals became business owners, opened up either a bed and breakfast or a small inn, even a larger inn at the other end of town with cottages. And people would come here on the weekends to utilize the cottages and the beach, or they would spend their summer vacations here. Ever since I was a small child, my parents used to come out here for vacation, and when they were not vacationing on Sundays, we would come out here and use the beach. And when you were on the beach, I remember my parents would just look to the left, look to the right. They would find friends. They would make new friends, all Lithuanians. It just became a very, very popular area. So both from a business perspective, and then many individuals started deciding to build their permanent homes here. And they built their homes, and they would commute to Chicago for work. So then they got very active in the community. As you mentioned, the church was expanded, designed by a Lithuanian architect with a lot of Lithuanian motif inside. Lituanica Park was always designated as a park since the town was incorporated back in the 30s, but nothing was ever done to it. The Lithuanians grouped together and in 1968 raised enough funds to create the park atmosphere, which now includes tennis courts, basketball courts, a pond. We have our picnics there, little concerts are there. And to further dedicate it to the Lithuanians, it was named Lituanica Park, which is the name of the airplane that the famous pilots Darius and Girėnas, who flew from New York and ultimately to end up in Kaunas. Tragically, they didn't make it. But in their commemoration, the park was named as Lituanica Park, and there's a plaque in the park indicating about their story, about their flight, and their tragic end.
Driving around Beverly Shores, there's definitely no shortage of Lithuanian sites here. Like next to many private homes, you can see traditional Lithuanian crosses, which is a UNESCO World Heritage inscribed art form, traditional and peculiar to Lithuania. And there are also many buildings designed by the same person, Ervilas Masiulis, who lived here and also designed the expansion of the church. Nevertheless, probably the most important public Lithuanian sites here are the church, where, while it wasn't built by Lithuanians, but what is the story behind the cross made of amber?
So When Edvilas Masiulis designed the church and they raised the funds to be able to build onto that addition, the Lithuanians wanted to make sure that they had more of a presence in there. So the women of Beverly Shores donated their amber jewelry. And what they did is they melted it together to create the figurine of Christ. And then another artist embedded that figurine of amber into a driftwood cross. And that now hangs, and it's been ever since the addition was built, and it still hangs over the altar. The other part that's in the church also is by our famous sculptor, Jurgis Daugvila. There is a traditional Lithuanian, in English it's called the warrior, where Christ is in this form and that he's worrying over the people. And that still is there to this day.
Amber is considered a kind of national mineral of Lithuania, and that's because amber is washed away to the shores of Lithuania from the Baltic Sea. And it's actually the similarity of Lake Michigan shores to the Baltic Sea that attracted some of the Lithuanians, maybe your family included.
Yeah, I used to always ask my father what attracted them to Beverly Shores. Not just them, but also to other Lithuanians. And when I was in Lithuania with my parents, we went to the Baltic Sea and felt the sand that is in the dunes by Nida, by Palanga. And that sand was not a typical ocean sand or a sea sand. It was a fine sand, just the same way you find here in Beverly Shores. But along with the pine trees, the birch trees, the landscape, the dunes, that's what attracted many Lithuanians here geographically to move and to enjoy this wonderful town.
Indeed, and every visitor to Chicago now can easily, in 1 hour or 1.5 hours, reach this Lithuanian resort, which is unique in America because, unlike many of other Lithuanian American towns and districts, it does not have a very long history dating to the 19th century or early 20th century of Lithuanian churches and all of that. But nevertheless, after the Second World War, Lithuanians managed to create a truly Lithuanian atmosphere here with many Lithuanian heritage sites.